Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we continue the stormy love story between LyTuDiep and CEO James. In our previous episode, after months of misunderstandings and loss, the two finally carved out a rare moment of peace, a fragile calm born from choosing to sit down, face the cracks in each other's hearts, and dare to start again. But that calm didn't last. The moment Diep returned, Trang showed up unexpectedly. She apologized, hurried, awkward, offering almost no explanation, leaving Diep stunned. What did she do wrong? What was that apology for? Before Diep could ask, Trang said she'd soon be leaving to study abroad, then rushed off, scattering unanswered questions behind her. And it doesn't end there. In today's episode, just before her flight, Trang forgot, or deliberately left behind, something that turns everything upside down, a major secret she uncovered at the last minute. It ties directly to Diep's past, to what James once hid in order to protect the woman he loves, and possibly to the real reason they were torn apart for so long. Is it a sealed case file? A transaction under someone else's name? Or proof that a third person once stood between them? Whatever it is, this secret could tear apart the fragile piece they've just rebuilt, or unlock the final missing piece that lets James and Diep truly understand each other. How will they face it? Will they accept, forgive, or walk away in opposite directions? Stay with us to find out what's really happening, and where the love story of LyTuDiep and CEO James goes from here. LyTuDiep eased back into her daily rhythm, carrying a strange kind of peace, the peace of someone who has weathered a storm and discovered she still has a place to come home to. She'd agreed with James, soon, they would move to the new farm, bigger, safer, better suited for the long haul. But before leaving, her heart refused to loosen its grip on this old patch of land. Here the damp smell of straw after rain lingers. Here stands the line of wooden fencing she hammered together slat by slat. Here is the pomelo tree Tony once climbed and tumbled from. And above all, here lives the memory of Haki, the dog she loved and lost. Diep believes, or more honestly, cannot bear not to believe, that if she keeps staying, keeps opening the gate each evening, maybe one day Haki will catch the old scent trail and find his way back. These days her to-do list reads like a series of hand-built farewells done with clumsy farmhand carpentry: re-roof the rabbit hutch, patch the mustard greens bed, check the wash basin pipes, bundle bamboo stakes for the gourds. And today it's the chicken coop, the job she once said she'd do when I'm free, then never was. She drags out the old wooden ladder, props it against the rotted siding, crouches to measure each span, and marks the cuts in chalk. Hammer blows ring bright in the dry morning sun, every nail she drives feels like she's fastening one more memory in place. Fresh cut wood and the clucking of old hens fill the yard with a lively warmth that chases off the emptiness she once feared after the recent upheavals. She knows she won't be staying here much longer, yet she works as if she'll live here forever. She even replaces the torn wire mesh along the west corner, the very spot Haki used to squeeze through on his way to the stream. This time she leaves a narrow gap, too small for a fox, but if Haki gnaws a little, he could slip in. By the coop door she hangs a tiny wind chime. "If you come back, give me a bark so I hear you, okay," she whispers, laughing at herself while her eyes sting. James keeps telling her, "Don't wear yourself out. I'll handle everything at the new place." But he understands, this isn't about fixing a chicken coop, it's about deep stitching torn memories back together. So he lets her work. Every now and then he brings cold water, stands quietly nearby, watching her measure, sleeves rolled up, sweat clinging to the fine hairs along her temple, the woman he loves, somehow both fierce and fragile. By late afternoon the sun tilts low across the freshly patched tin roof, casting a gold streak over the packed earth. Diep sweeps up curls of shavings, spreads a clean layer of rice husk, sets a new water tray, and at the doorway, places a small earthen bowl filled with feed and a few strips of dried meat, a special guest serving, in case Haki drops by unannounced. Leaning against a post, she surveys the old farm. Everywhere she looks she sees their traces, her handprints, James's boot tracks, Tony's little footprints, and somewhere, she's certain, the prints of Haki remain, not yet washed away by rain. She knows the countdown to leaving has begun. But until the very last day, she wants this place to be remembered not as an abandoned farm, but as a home loved all the way through. And if, some night, a familiar bark sounds at the gate, she wants Haki to find the right earth smell, the right strip of grass, the waiting bowl that says you were never forgotten. As long as there is hope, Diep will keep tending. And as long as she tends, this old farm is still home. This afternoon, just after finishing chores in the field, James received a short call from Trang. Her voice trembled but tried to stay steady. She wanted to stop by the house to hand over work files and speak in private. Something felt off. James cleared the rest of his schedule and stayed home to wait. James's mother, who has always cherished Trang like a daughter, heard the basics and at once set out a pot of tea and pulled the administrative packets that might need signatures, just in case. By late afternoon Trang arrived. She carried a thick document case, shoulders slightly bowed as if the past weeks were writing there. She greeted James's mother politely, set the case on the table, and laid things out with careful clarity. She was formally resigning to go abroad for graduate study, to deepen her professional skills. She thanked them both for the trust, guidance, and chance to work through such a turbulent stretch at the company. Inside the case, a signed handover memo, a list of open tasks, temporary passwords, vendor contacts, and updated reports through period close. James's mother paged through, asked a few questions, then nodded. Going to study is good. Tell me if you need any paperwork. The air stayed warm, gentle, even as a soft sadness settled over the room at parting with someone who'd become family. When the signatures were done, Trang hesitated. She gripped the edge of the document case until her knuckles went white, then turned to James. I need to speak with you alone. It's important. One look at her face, blanched, eyes swollen from crying yet fiercely held dry, and James knew delay was impossible. He excused them and led her out to the back veranda, screened from the sitting room by a stand of bamboo. Trang stood for a long time before she could speak. Her first sentence sent ice through James's spine. Everything that happened. Diep being targeted, hunted, almost killed, my father was behind it. James froze. He thought he must have misheard. Trang met his eyes and repeated, slower, forcing each word out. Her father had been quietly cooperating with John, the man James and his legal/security team had been chasing for the recent wave of financial sabotage, supply manipulation, and threats against James's close staff. The original goal, Trang said, was to pressure the company and gain leverage in an off-book investment deal. But when things spun out of control, John escalated, intimidation, surveillance, and using hired muscle to intercept anyone who knew too much. Diep happened to be in the wrong place the same week an internal packet of documents and transfer records leaked, so she landed on the list to be silenced. That decision set off the chain of pursuits we all witnessed, ending with Diep barely clinging to life. Trang said she'd only uncovered the truth in the last few days. First, she noticed late-night calls between her father and an international number tied in company files to John. Then she found a strange financial transfer routed through a shell contractor that had once served as a sub-vendor on James's project. When news spread that Diep had been attacked, the details snapped into alignment, timestamps, travel routes, those outside security men her father had mentioned. She dug into archived emails and surfaced an encrypted exchange. That's when she panicked. I tried to stop him, she choked. I begged him to pull out. He said he'd already brought John in, there's no backing out now. James's fists clenched. Images flashed, Diep unconscious, breached security reports, long nights running down John's network. All of it converged on a single name, Trang's father. Then Trang dropped to one knee, pride forgotten. You have every right to press charges. The evidence is in here. She opened the case and drew out a second bundle, not part of the HR handover, stuffed with printed bank statements, call logs, screenshots of encrypted chats, and a handwritten summary she compiled. John's been arrested. The money trail can be traced back. I'm asking, if there's any way to handle this without throwing my father straight into prison, please give him a path. I'll go home and force him to cooperate, turn over everything. I'll testify. Just, please don't let this go past the point of no return. A network error occurred. Please check your connection and try again. If this issue persists, please contact us through our help center at help.openai.com. Retry. English, polished dramatic translation. James went still when Trang confessed. The first thing he felt wasn't anger, it was an abrupt, hollow drop, as if someone had yanked away the ground he'd been standing on for years. He had never once considered that Trang's father could be behind the chain of events that left Diep hunted and nearly killed. Their families were practically intertwined. His mother and Trang's mother were lifelong friends. He and Trang grew up on the same street, attended the same schools. Later, she worked in his company. Lunar New Year dinners, clan memorial days, afternoons the two mothers spent sewing clothes for their kids, all of it rushed back, making her admission that much harder to grasp. How could an uncle who once carried him as a child join forces with John and push Diep toward death, and throw his company into chaos? The shock caved inward and ignited into heat. James turned away from Trang's eyes, afraid of what he might say. But Trang didn't retreat. She let the files fall, dropped to her knees on the veranda tiles, hands clasped. I'm apologizing for my father, please don't hate him. He was wrong, but if there's any other way, please don't let him go to prison. I love him. I don't want him destroyed. Her voice fractured, shame, panic, desperation, like everything would collapse if James so much as turned his back. The sight only fanned the fire, his childhood friend kneeling to beg for the man who had almost taken the life of the woman he loved. He wanted to shout, what if Diep had died? How do you expect me to forgive that? But the words jammed in his throat. Trang wasn't the architect. The documents she'd brought, bank statements, call logs, encrypted notes, proved she wasn't hiding anything. If she meant to cover for her father, she would never have handed James the evidence. She had chosen the side of truth, even though that truth could drag her own family over a cliff. James lowered himself to her level and forced his voice steady. Trang, listen. Personally, I know you're not guilty. You came forward, I recognize that. But this case is already with the authorities. I can't, and I'm not allowed to, bury evidence or sit on the investigation. Here's what I can do. I won't personally file a complaint naming your father, and I won't submit an independent petition pushing for criminal charges unless I am legally required to. Beyond that, the investigators will proceed on the evidence they have. If they reach him, I'll provide whatever the law compels, no more, no less. That's the only latitude I can give, for our friendship, and for our mothers. Trang lifted her face, eyes wet. That's enough, thank you. I'll go home and convince my father to cooperate. I won't let this happen again. James studied her. You have to do more than not let it happen again. You get him to stop now, turn over everything through a neutral attorney, and make sure no one from John's side comes within sight of Diep. I need that commitment. She nodded, like accepting a sentence. Only after she rose did James finally exhale. The anger still burned, a coal not yet cooled, but it was laced with the hurt of betrayal by someone once considered family, and with pity for a friend trapped between filial loyalty and what is right. He told himself, personal grace doesn't erase consequences, restraint is not collusion. He would protect Diep first, the company second, old ties after that. Before going back inside, he added, his tone colder, like sealing a contract. This is the last generosity I extend to the friendship between us. If anyone touches Diep again, or goes after my people, I'll turn over every shred of evidence I have, including your father's name, and run this case to the end. Do you understand? Trang clutched the file to her chest and bowed her head. I understand. Thank you, and I'm sorry. After the heavy confession about her father, silence settled between James and Trang. Night had fallen outside the veranda, soft yellow light from the house filtered through a thin curtain, muting the tension. Hugging the document case to her chest, Trang hesitated, there was still something left unsaid. At last she unzipped it and drew out a thick envelope tied together with a folded savings passbook and a ribbon. I know you're building the new farm, and a new home for Diep, she said quietly. This is what I've been saving from my years working. It's nothing compared to what you're investing, but I want to contribute. Call it restitution. For Diep. For everything my family has, unknowingly, caused. James stiffened. Trang set the envelope on the table and nudged it toward him, though her fingers stayed clamped to the edge, as if afraid he'd refuse on sight. I'm leaving to study overseas, she went on, voice thick. I don't want to carry a debt of the heart with me. I can't fix the big things, but let me pay for a few bricks, a few seedlings, something that says I did one right thing for Diep. Later, if anyone asks, just say it's employee education support. Don't say I gave money. I don't want it to trouble her, or cause people to talk about you. He looked from the envelope to Trang, and in that instant remembered Diep that very morning, crouched over the old chicken coop at the first farm, remembered the sleepless nights he and his tech team spent locking down company data after John's attack. Now in front of him sat the life savings of a young woman about to head abroad, money she would almost certainly need. He gently slid the envelope back. Trang, I'm grateful. But I can't take this. Her eyes flew wide. James spoke slowly so nothing blurred. The new farm, I've got it covered. What Diep needs isn't your money. She needs safety, the truth, and for all of this to end. If you truly want to make it right, keep the money, study hard, and help me by getting your father to cooperate. That would be the greatest gift you could give Diep. Trang bit her lip. I at least want to contribute something symbolic. James gave a faint, warm half-smile. Then contribute something else. Send Diep seed stock, or new farming techniques you learn over there. She loves trying new things. The money, you keep. Studying abroad costs more than you think. Tears welled, not from rejection, but from being understood. She drew the envelope back, holding it tight, as if cradling both her family's guilt and her chance to mend it. Thank you, truly. I'll do what you said. I'll go talk to my father. I promise. The air lightened. They lingered a few minutes more, slipping into easier conversation, laughing about the time they climbed a neighbor's fence to steal guavas and James's mom caught them, the day Trang dove into the canal to haul James out after he fell in. Little stories, but enough to pull them out of a field sown with guilt and suspicion and back toward the old friendship still buried under the dust of years. Before leaving, Trang stepped inside and bowed deeply to James's mother, thanking her for approving the leave so she could study abroad and promising to call once she'd settled overseas. James's mother clasped her hand. study hard. I'll let you know if anything happens at home. And don't blame yourself too much, alright? Trang could only nod, eyes red. Out in the yard, James opened the car door for her. She turned back. Please, tell Diep I'm sorry. And when I send the flower seeds, plant them along the fence for me. I will, James said. Travel safe. Trang's car rolled through the gate, its taillights glowed red, then disappeared beyond the line of acacias. James stood watching long after they were gone. The sky was clear that day, clouds as thin as voile, a light breeze carrying the scent of freshly cut grass. Diep came through James's gate glowing, arms full of a sack of dragon fruit she'd just harvested at the old farm. She had picked only the best, taut skin, bright green fins, dew-kissed, wrapped each in banana leaves to keep them cool, then tucked them into a woven basket. The moment James's mother spotted her, she wiped her apron and hurried to the porch, smiling so wide it creased her cheeks. Good heavens, did you bring the whole orchard? Diep, bashful but pleased, held out the basket. I cut them this morning. Please taste and tell me if my soil grows anything sweet. The older woman accepted the gift like a Ted offering, praising the plump fruit, and calling for the sharpest paring knife. Right there at the porch table she split one open, the blade slid down, releasing a blush-red, perfumed flesh. She tasted first, eyes widening, then laughed toward Diep, anything grows heavy with you tending the land. A joke, maybe, but warm enough that Diep felt fatigue fall from her shoulders. James's mother had already laid aside stacks of renderings and layout sketches for the new farmhouse James was building for Diep. Thick color prints, a dark-stained timber gable, a white farmhouse with a full wraparound porch perfect for drying herbs, a red-tiled roof with a ventilated loft for produce, hybrid concepts mixing traditional forms with light steel framing. She spread them across the stoneyard table and used bowls of cut dragon fruit to keep the corners from lifting in the breeze. Come look, she said, drawing a chair close like only a real mother would. Do you want the front facing east to catch morning sun, or turn toward the hill for cooler afternoons? We should make the porch wide, for drying greens, hanging tools. Can the kitchen open out to the garden? Later when you make jams or dried fruit, easier to bring everything inside. Diep leaned over the drawings, eyes shining like a child choosing a dollhouse. She circled the farmhouse plan. If we turn it a little southeast we'll get morning light but not full glare. I'll keep a dragon fruit row here. Herbs along this run. And in this corner, a small coop for a few chickens, maybe try ducks. James's mother switched to a colored pen to outline the changes, all the while advising, dig a drainage trench before the rains. And line the coop floor with mesh or the civets will dig under. Those small, seasoned farmer tips touched Diep deeply. People only remember such details when they truly care. In that moment she realized she was no longer just the boyfriend's visitor, she was being loved as family. They were still bent over the papers when a car door thudded out front. James was home. He stepped in to find the table buried in sketches layered with pencil marks, half-cut dragon fruit everywhere, his mother and Diep chattering away. He stared, then burst out laughing. So the project team forgot to invite the investor, huh? His mother waved him over. Investor just arrived, good. Metal roof or tile? Steel frame or timber? Decide fast so I can order materials. Before he could sip water, a pen was shoved into his hand. The afternoon instantly turned into a porch-side design charrette. Drawing on his build experience, James checked wind direction, roof load, drainage slope. He proposed a hidden steel skeleton to handle storms, clad in wood outside for warmth without excessive weight. His mother pushed for an auxiliary west porch to shade against the dry season afternoon sun, and to hold a long tea bench. Diep insisted on a broad drying yard that connected straight to the kitchen, so I can wash greens and set fruit to dry without walking the long way, plus a drip irrigation run along each planting bed so she wouldn't have to haul water at dawn. Back and forth they went until they agreed, and elevated rainwater tank feeding lines to each row, raised outdoor outlets to avoid moisture, a termite barrier under the storage shed slab. Tiny details piled up, each attached to a story, her telling of ruined rice laid out to dry when she was young, James's tale of a wind gust tearing off a client's roof, Diep's complaint about chickens wrecking her vegetable beds. Every so often Diep whispered, "Is this getting too expensive?" James tapped the fruit basket. "You grow sweetness like this, our return on joy is already paid." His mother laughed. "Invest in happiness, you can't lose." All three laughed with her. Late sun slid past the erica palms, turning the drawings gold and flushing Diep's cheeks with excitement. They talked about the months ahead, morning tea while mist lifts over the fields, noon harvests to sell at the weekend market, afternoons drying herbs under the porch, evenings shelling seeds together. On free days, invite friends to help pick and end with a long outdoor meal. In some seasons they'd try dragon fruit jam, in others, plant strawberries, mint. James's mother teased, "When kids come tearing through here, remember to build a soft fence," and the younger two blushed and laughed. As twilight went purple, Diep gathered the marked-up prints, set aside a few fruits for James's mother to keep, and left the rest for James to show the design team. She headed home lighthearted, not only because a new house was taking shape, but because she felt cherished, supported, welcomed fully into a family. James walked her to the gate, watched her smile in the fading light, and made a quiet promise: whatever storms still wait outside, he will build this home, one true place of peace, for the woman he loves. Dusk had gone violet when James started the truck to take Diep home. The marked-up stack of house plants from his mother lay on the back seat beside a bag of dragon fruit with a few pieces left. They rode in silence for a long stretch. Diep assumed he was just tired after the planning session, unaware that James was wrestling with when to tell her the truth. Just past the village rise, he suddenly turned into a small roadside timber cafe, the one they'd stopped at once when they first began seeing each other. "Let's grab a drink before we head back," he said evenly, though his eyes were serious. The place was nearly empty. They chose a deep corner behind a rack of orchids. The server brought 2 glasses, iced coffee with milk for Diep, black over ice for James. He didn't touch his. He turned the spoon between his fingers, drew a breath. "I need to tell you something about Trang," he began. Diep looked up, still smiling from the cheerful afternoon. "She resigned to go study abroad, right? That's all, isn't it?" James met her eyes. "It's more than that." Then he told her. Layer by layer, no detours, no softening. Trang came to hand over her work. Trang resigned. Trang pulled him aside on the veranda and confessed, her father had partnered with John, the network that tried to squeeze his company financially. When things spun out, John escalated to threats and surveillance. Diep stumbled across the wrong thing at the wrong moment, and the chase that nearly cost her life followed. Trang had learned only days ago. She'd gathered evidence, she'd knelt and begged him not to throw her father straight into prison if there was another path. She even offered her savings to help build the farm for Diep as restitution. He refused. He told Trang the file was already with the police and he would not suppress it. The only concession he made was this: he would not personally name her father unless compelled by law, provided Trang forced him to cooperate and shut everything down. When James finished, the cafe was so still they could hear ice settling in their glasses. Diep said nothing at first, seconds, then more. She looked at him, then out into the dark road, then down at her hands. The shock arrived slowly but deep. Trang was a friend, they had worked late shifts together, shared takeout over deadlines. James's mother and Trang's were close. And yet that chain of events had nearly taken her life. Diep swallowed hard. "I never would have," she faltered, eyes reddening. "It hurts, but I don't want to hate them. If it's Trang's father, if he took one terrible step," she drew a steadying breath. "I want to forgive. Could you not push this all the way? I don't want both families shattered because of me." James studied her a long moment. "I know you want a lighter heart," he said carefully. But we have to separate things. Forgiveness in here, he touched his chest, isn't the same as erasing consequences out there. You can choose not to resent. But someone nearly killed you. Nothing guarantees they won't try again if cornered. When we're too merciful with dangerous people, we sometimes hand them the chance to hurt us, or someone else, again. He set his hand on the table, close enough for her to see the faint tremor. I promised Trang I wouldn't push this further on my own. But the police are already involved, I won't interfere. If the trail leads to them, we cooperate. My first duty is to keep you alive. Tears fell, but Diep didn't break. He was right. Forgiveness doesn't build fences, love doesn't replace safeguards. So what do I do? She whispered. James began mapping it out right there. Starting tomorrow, she doesn't travel alone at dusk between the old farm and the new site, additional gate cameras and sensor locks, use the secure comms channel he already set up, all major materials purchases routed through the company, not personal accounts that can be traced, no solo night trips, check-in protocol before leaving and upon arrival. This isn't because I think you're weak, he added. It's because I don't trust the people who've already shown what they're willing to do. Diep nodded at each point. I'll follow it. And I'll learn to protect myself, line cutter, defense spray, basic moves. You'll teach me? I'll have Juan from the security team train you tomorrow, he said. She wiped her eyes and tried a grin. So I'm getting the premium security upgrade. He laughed, and the tension loosened a notch. Then Diep circled back to Trang. I still want her to know I don't hold this against her. Her father. I can't rewrite the law, but I pray he stops. James agreed, once things calm, he'll pass the message. But remember, he said, firm again, forgiving doesn't mean turning your back on the truth. If they move again, I won't hold back. If it comes to that, Diep answered, do what you have to do. I'll stand with you. Outside, night insects had begun their chorus. Their coffee sat nearly empty, ice melted thin. They stayed a little longer, not speaking, but the silence had changed, weighty yet clear, sad yet close. Finally James rose to pay, and they finished the drive. In the cab, Diep leaned her head back, clutching the folder of plans his mother had marked, sketches of the life ahead, wide porch, open kitchen, long rows of crops. She understood now that to reach that happiness, they would have to pass through the hard truth of this night. At the old farm gate James stopped her from hopping out too fast. Lock up. Call me once you're inside, he said. She nodded. Before stepping through the gate she turned back. Thank you for telling me. I forgive them, but I'm not letting go of protecting myself anymore. I promise. I believe you, James replied. And I'm here. James didn't drive straight home after dropping Diep at her gate and waiting until she'd gone in and slid the bolt. Instead, he swung toward the newly purchased parcel, the land that would become Diep's farm. Night had settled, the sky was dark, but work lights flickered along the far edge of the fields. From a distance came the low growl of earth movers. The crew was pushing to finish grading before next week's rains. He dimmed his headlights as he rolled in so he wouldn't blind the workers, then stopped beside a fresh line of survey stakes. When he bought it, the tract was an old patchwork of rice field and low knoll, uneven ground laced with a winding drainage ditch. For more than a week his team had been stripping sod, cutting high spots, and filling the sunk ones. Under the amber work lamps, bands of newly turned red earth lay stretched and smooth, like coarse cloth pulled taut on a frame before cutting a coat. James climbed down, scooped a handful of soil, and rubbed it between his fingers, sandy enough to drain. With manure and compost worked in, it would be perfect for dragon fruit and kitchen herbs. He pictured Diep that afternoon, arms folded over the drawing, grinning as she insisted on an extra-wide drying yard. "You'll get your drying yard," he murmured. Kwong, the farm project manager, trotted up, hard hat askew. "Boss. We just finished setting grade on the main house pad. Land office sent the boundary confirmation, need your signature on an addendum to pick up the north strip for livestock setback." James had them bring floodlights and roll out the plans. Nom, who handled land legal, produced the file, transfer notarized, cadastral update pending. The north strip had been an access track, the former owner willing to include it, only price remained. James initialed and ordered it closed this week, but recorded under the parent company. If he later parceled a section over to Diep, the deed would be clean, no side payments, especially after Trang's confession. He didn't elaborate, just said, all financial paperwork through legal. No casual transfers, none. They walked the staked line. Kwong pointed, main house here. Open kitchen here. Porch running southeast like Ms. Diep picked. Veg beds and dragon fruit per ant land's red marks. Chicken coop on the west, near the drainage cut. James nodded, adding, run a drain swale parallel to the fence, no flooding in monsoon. Lay conduit for drip irrigation now, don't wait till the house is up and dig twice. To the electrical lead, feed power underground, service cabinet in the equipment shed. Cameras east, west, and at the gate. Alarm if any rear door opens after 10 p.m. Label it asset protection, no private explanations. The orders sounded purely technical, but underneath lay the warning he'd given Diep, forgive in your heart, but build a fence in real life. At the parcel's south rise, nearly 1.5 meters above the lower grade, James paused to take in the sight. The dozer went quiet, only insects and wind remained. Darkness made the acreage feel larger, like an untouched sea of earth. He saw it in his mind, a gravel drive, strings of porch lights, Diep at dawn carrying a basket of dew-wet greens, his mother sorting seed, and himself, where would he be? He laughed under his breath, right here, of course. He'd called the purchase a satellite AG investment, but deep down he'd bought it to build Diep a home, and maybe give himself a way out of the grind of boardrooms, crises, and corporate knife fights. A real roof, not another project. What's funny? Kwong asked. Just picturing it, James said. Tomorrow core drill the slab area, extend the porch one more bay. She wants the big drying deck. Kwong scribbled. James added, stub a secondary water line to the edge of the yard. Later she can rinse produce without dragging hose. Then, remembering, he turned to Nom. Log the cost increase in the report. No off-books. I want every line transparent. After what he'd heard from Trang, transparent was now non-negotiable, defuse the bomb early so no one could use a loose thread for leverage. They finished the walkthrough at the south marker. James signed the site log and set milestones, 7 days to complete grading, drains, and buried runs, 2 weeks to stand the frame, 3 more to roof, utilities in parallel. No later than 6 weeks I want that porch roof up so she can dry greens, he said, half joke, half order. The crew laughed and answered in unison, yes, sir. Back on the dirt lane, he stopped once more to look over the shadowed site, pricked with work lights. In his mind, images overlapped, Diep that afternoon, leaning over drawings, eyes bright, Diep tonight in the cafe, gripping her cup, tears quiet as she heard the truth, and ahead, Diep under the new porch at sunrise. Warmth spread in his chest, a smile came unbidden. The ground was being leveled. Maybe the rough places in their lives could be graded too, if they kept at it. Softly, to no one, he made a promise, this house will stand. For you. For us. He climbed back in, switched on the lights, and drove the dusty road home carrying both the problems to solve and the dream taking shape, one bucket of soil, one survey stake at a time under the night fields. That night held too much for one heart, Diep hearing the hard truth in a roadside cafe. James walking the raw earth that would become her farm. Trang leaving with a confession and a vow to pull her father back from the edge. But is remorse strong enough to cut the chain of violence that nearly killed Diep? Trang's father now stands at a crossroads: deny and let the investigation swallow him whole, or cooperate, surrender the evidence, and own his mistake before it's too late. James has drawn the line. He won't push the case on his own, but if another threat touches Diep or his company, he'll open every file. Forgiveness is personal, the law is not optional. The choice is his, and hers, the daughter brave enough to confront him. And Diep? She hurts, but refuses to live in hate. She'll move forward, toward a new farm, a home drawn by James's mother and staked tonight by James himself. She's promised to learn to defend herself. She won't be easy prey again. On that freshly graded ground, their future will rise in wood, in steel, and in trust tempered by fire. Yet will the road to happiness stay smooth? Or will the build uncover links still buried in the deal between Trang's father and John? Everything is still unwritten. Will Trang's remorse be enough to save them? Will her father turn back before every door slams shut? Will the dream farmhouse become their haven, or the next battleground? Join us in the next episode to find out. Don't miss it. What happens next will decide everyone's fate.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người, mình vừa mới hoàn thành xong tập về nội dung lớn mới nhất của LyTuDiep và CEO James. Mình hy vọng rằng video hôm nay sẽ mang đến nhiều ý nghĩa hơn cho mọi người và mọi người sẽ thích video hôm nay, và mong rằng mọi người sẽ ủng hộ cho kênh mình nhiều hơn nữa. Hy vọng rằng trong những video tiếp theo vẫn có thể gặp mọi người và chào mọi người như thế này. Và mình có một chút là trong thời gian tới có thể là mình sẽ làm thêm khá là nhiều nội dung nữa ở trên kênh của mình. Hy vọng là mọi người sẽ quan tâm và xem, theo dõi nhiều hơn, cũng như ủng hộ cho kênh mình nhiều hơn. Hy vọng rằng mọi người có thể đăng ký kênh, sau đó bật chuông thông báo lên để không bỏ lỡ bất kỳ video nào mà kênh mình ra. Cũng như là mọi người cũng có thể like video hoặc để lại bình luận để đóng góp ý kiến. Và mọi người nếu yêu quý thì hãy chia sẻ video này đến những người khác mọi người nhé. Chào tạm biệt, hẹn gặp lại mọi người trong những video tiếp theo.